Hello, everyone. This is Mickey Moore, your host of Run.Life.Today. Really excited that you're joining us for another episode where we're bringing you some authentic and inspiring conversations with those folks who have learned the art of running more of life and life running them. Could be more excited to have Michelle with, I say Michelle, Dr. Michelle Mitcham with us. Hello, doctor.
Hello there, Mickey. I'm glad I'm here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I know our audience is excited to learn more about you and where you've been and where you're going in life and hearing some of your advice. But let me remind all of them listening to visit our website, Run.Life.Today.org. Be sure to like us, watch us, follow us, and subscribe when you get a chance. There are a lot of episodes there, so check them out as we are near our first full year of episodes. So let's get back to Dr. Mitcham. I've had the pleasure of knowing you now for, what, are we going on 3 years, almost 2 years?
Going on 3 years. Yeah.
Going on 3 years. And I know, again, you're here because you're busy. So that's why we want to interview you. But thank you for making time in your schedule for this little interview. I know our audience is certainly going to benefit in a lot of ways.
Well, I hope so. And thank you. I know you're, busy, Mr. Marathon and half marathon around the world and all those things. So I'm glad that we finally got our schedules in sync to do this.
Yes, we did. Yes. So as you may know, Dr. Michelle, I'm going to call you Michelle from here on out. I'm going to drop that formality because we are friends. But I always start these conversations with a little bit of background, giving you a chance to share with our audience where you're from, a little bit about your upbringing and your parents, what you were like in school and kind of all the way through your education before we jump into the business lane, community involvement, all those other lanes of life that you integrate. So please take a few minutes, if you don't mind, kind of tell us where you're from and about your upbringing. Michelle, please.
Well, okay. The short version of that is I'm originally born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and had my mom, dad, 2 brothers, great family. I was raised in a Catholic school for the most part, for one school from 1st grade to 8th grade. And then I went to a magnet school for high school, Cass Technical High School, which a lot of interesting people have gone there, like John DeLorean and Diana Ross, and I think Eartha Kitt, and many, many, many people. Anyway, so I was very fortunate to be able to go to a magnet high school, which was very different because I had been in private school all my life. So I'm originally from Detroit, although my family is from various places. So my dad was family from Little Rock, Arkansas, and my mom's family is from India via Jamaica. So quite a mixture there. Anyway.
Yeah. Diverse background for sure. Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. Detroit, Michigan. I mean, you got Kid Rock, you got the Pistons, you got the Tigers, you got the Lions, Motown.
Oh, right? Yeah. And Ford. And I'm growing up, kids would take a tour of the Ford Motor Company, the museum. And a lot of great things. You got, like you said, baseball, football, ice skating, roller skating, and tons of beautiful outdoors and 4 seasons. Okay. And so something special about being from Detroit, Michigan. I left there, came to Florida. The short version is that I ended up finishing at University of Central Florida in Orlando. But I don't miss the snow. But I do like going back to visit Detroit, but that's where I got my upbringing. But anyway, great family. My mother was, again, from Jamaica via her parent family from India. And my mom was very humble, very loving, very kind. She was a stay-at-home mom, volunteered all the time. Everyone wanted their mom to be the volunteer person at school. And I always had my mom at school with me. And my dad delivered the mail. He was very worldly in that he read about 4 different newspapers, like national newspapers, to keep up with things. But he didn't finish college. So anyway, great, just humble beginnings. 2 brothers.
Older or younger?
Older brothers. I was a baby. Yeah, I was a baby. 2 big brothers, and sadly, when I was a teenager, I lost, well, when I was very young, I lost my dad when I was 4 years old. Sadly, he died in a car accident, a vehicle accident. He was delivering the mail, and sadly, he lost his life in a horrible accident. And I lost my oldest brother when I was 16, and to gun violence, actually. He was shot, and it was very, very sad. My mother was devastated and just depressed, and she actually said she was ready to die. And she ended up passing away 3 years after my brother. And so anyway, it's a long story, but at the age of 19, I knew what it was like. I felt like I was an orphan.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you, for sharing that. And so prior to 19, I love asking a little bit about your high school. Michelle, what was Michelle like in high school? What did you do, your extracurricular activities, if you had any, or was it all about school? And what was your school mascot, just to fill us in a little more?
Well, Cast Tech, there's just you're our Cast Tech technician. And so it's kind of nerdy.
Okay, you said it. You said it. I didn't say it. All
Right.
right.
So people, yeah, we go to Cast Tech, people think you're kind of a nerd. But growing up, I was exposed to a lot of different things. I remember trying out dance and volleyball. Wasn't great at sports. And one thing I love to do was roller skate. And, I still roller skate. And my brother played football. So I would go to the football games and just kind of focused on studying and, had friends, but I didn't go after a whole lot. I mean, I was just focused on my grades and focused on school. And I didn't get in a lot of sports or anything like that. I think sports, it's kind of overwhelming because anyway, my brother played football and I didn't. I played sports and I learned a little bit about it, like in PE and stuff like that, but I never thought I was good enough to go out for like a team.
Sure. But you were active. That's good. That's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Being active. I think I've told you I'm married to a national champion, right? Roller skater. Did I tell you about that?
You told me a little bit. I would like to know more about that. I would like to, I would like to hang out with your wife and go roller skating with her.
That's right. Yeah. When she was younger, she traveled around the country and won a couple of championships. So, okay, your schooling, let me be a little more specific about that. Eventually, you got a few different degrees, right? But tell me what led to the schools that you chose, the degrees that you chose. Did you know that growing up? Hey, I want to get a degree in this. I want to do this, or was one of those things where you kind of a feeling out process? Share a little bit about that.
That's an excellent question. At one point I even thought about teaching, which is interesting, I guess, because you're just around teachers. So I was at Immaculate Heart of Mary and all of my teachers were nuns. I didn't think about becoming a nun, but I thought it was really cool that they taught. But I didn't say, I want to be a teacher, which is interesting. That's another story, of course, because, I also teach right now. But I think that when I was in college, I first went to a university in Detroit, Lawrence Technological University.
Okay.
And I wasn't quite sure. I thought I wanted to do business, and they had a really good business program because at my high school, you had to choose a major. So in ninth grade, you took your general education courses and you had to choose your major, and then you graduated from that major. So I actually graduated with a high school diploma with a specialization in business administration, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I had to take accounting 1 and 2 and cost accounting and all these business courses. And it's just interesting because I didn't directly go into business after that in college. I ended up really being interested in people. So I actually transferred to University of Central Florida. But before that, I didn't transfer directly. I realized I needed to finish up, and it was easier to get into UCF and less of a headache if I went through the community college. So I have a lot of respect for community colleges because I went to Valencia Community College, which was great. Reminds me of TCC here. A lot of people think, oh, community college, but no, it's, they have great programs. So I finished up the general education requirement, the first, whatever I had left of those 60 credit hours. Right. And then I went to the University of Central Florida and I focused on psychology. So I majored in psychology and I had taken a lot of science courses just in case I wanted to do psychiatry one day or go to med school. So I had all these science courses. So I ended up getting a BS in psychology because some people have said, there's no such thing as a BS in psychology. I'm like, oh, actually there is. If you take a bunch of science courses, you can get a BS in psychology. Right. So anyway, then after that, I realized within a few years, a couple of years, I'm like, I think I want to be a therapist. And so then I pursued my master's degree and I did a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling and school counseling. So I had to do a couple of extra internships, which sounds crazy, but I like to have options. I didn't know if I just wanted to have my foot in school doing school counseling or if I wanted to do clinical mental health counseling only. So I've majored in both and I worked as a high school counselor and then eventually as a psychotherapist.
Wow. A lot of options, even more so now, which we'll get to later, right? Okay. Right. So, couple things there. Yeah. Community college, big fan, right? So I went to a community college as well, to get my feet under me, and it was a little more doable from a financial standpoint for me at that time. So big fan of community colleges. But I recognize too that the path of, Michigan to Florida, was there anything in particular that brought you to Florida? I mean.
Oh, great question. Yes. So sadly, after I lost my whole family and I just had one brother left, my brother and I, Michael, are very, very close. We talk or text every single day. But it was just the two of us after we lost our mom, our dad, then our brother, then our mom, then my father's brother, who was wonderful, my Uncle Orrin, and my Aunt Lou. As my mother and her sister actually married two brothers married two sisters, and this aunt and uncle couldn't have children. So we were like their kids, and they lived 20 minutes away. So we had, thank goodness, after we lost our parents, we had our aunt and uncle, and we were very close to them. And sadly, 3 years after my mom passed away, my Aunt Lou got diagnosed with cancer of the pancreas, and that really takes you quickly. It was really devastating because she was very loving and kind. She couldn't have kids, but she died within months. And so my uncle said, you know what? Our plan was to retire and live in our house in Florida, in Orlando. Well, actually, it was technically Kissimmee, near Disney. And so he said, Michelle, I'm going to move to Florida and I'm going to have to drive all my stuff down. I told my uncle, I said, you know what? I'll drive you. He said, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'll drive you down and, get you settled in and I want to help out. So my brother had just taken a job in Chicago. He's in leadership and communication. So he was taking a job in Chicago. And so there was going to be no one else in Michigan. So I thought, why am I going to stay here? I would rather be in with my brother or my uncle. But I thought Chicago, Illinois, my brother was going to be out like in Hoffman Estates or St. Charles and the suburbs. Do I want the cold, bitter winter of Chicago or do I want Florida? And I was like, I'm going to Florida.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. I didn't want to skip over that piece because, it's not like you were just in South Georgia and came to Florida. You were in Michigan and came all the way down to Florida. So
yeah, that's a good question.
Good. Okay. So just to kind of wrap that up, thank you for sharing about your background and, through all the unfortunate, the tragedies that you had to suffer through as a young person, but yet a loving family, highly educated at a young age, and then found your path to Valencia, UCF, and advanced degrees. So thanks for giving everybody that background. Now we want to shift to our real first major lane, where I know, again, the theme here is you're integrating a lot of lanes of work in life. So let's talk about business, right? So how I know you.
Can I say something? I did forget the one. I forgot the rest after the master's. I went back to University of Central Florida to get my PhD.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm calling you a doctor, and I know that, but you're right, the audience, to make sure that they're aware. And we're going to dig a little more on your Courageous Conversations, the name of your business, from a psychotherapy standpoint. We'll dig more on that in just a few minutes too. Thank you for reminding me on that. So let's talk about your primary business lane that I know you from is Tallahassee Woman Magazine, right? I know you've got some other maybe side hustles, almost primary hustles. you've got a few primary hustles that you do, but because I know Tallahassee Woman Magazine, tell our audience about your work there today, how you got to the magazine and now owning the magazine, and what are the few keys to success for the magazine today.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Yes, the magazine, Tallahassee Woman Magazine, which I love. And I think that many women in Tallahassee love the magazine, which is an award-winning magazine. We just celebrated our 15th year. I actually was fortunate enough to meet the former owner and editor and staff when I first got to Florida. I believe, Tallahassee, not to Florida. I was here in 2015 to 2016, actually commuting back and forth from the St. Pete, Tampa area, and met the former owner, and ended up renting an office in her building. And I was regularly invited to write from the former owner and editor. They would say, "Hey, would you like to write an article?" And so I'm like, "Sure, Kim, sure, Heather, I'll write something." And I really loved what the magazine stood for. And so that's how I actually first learned anything about the magazine. And I attended some events, and then they asked me to speak. They asked me to speak again. I believe I was a keynote speaker for a large event a couple of times. So that's how I got connected. And what I loved about it wasn't just a magazine, it was bringing women together and uplifting and inspiring and educating and just connecting it. Like you use the word connectivity. I know you use it in the business sense, but the connection of women is very powerful. And I saw that the magazine had the ability to do that. And so that was my first introduction and interest in 2015, 2016 to Tallahassee Woman Magazine. And then I had the opportunity to purchase the magazine. I started discussing it in spring and summer 2018 and purchased it in September of 2018.
Wow. Congratulations. So that's 3 years full. Yeah. Just completed your third year, right?
Yes.
Of owning it. And that was big news, of course, here locally. And I agree with you. I think that the sense of connectivity, right, with the magazine is super important. And from a relationship standpoint, right, I love using the word connectivity and participation around relationships. And you're certainly doing that. And if you were to say today the magazine is known for its, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's an excellent question. Since buying the magazine and building upon what it already stood for, I would say that the magazine is known for women's empowerment, definitely for women's empowerment, and for making sure that all women see themselves in the picture. Because when anyone takes a group photo, right, even if it's of course with an iPhone or Android or whatever, and you take that group photo and you look at it and kind of blow it up, the first thing you're looking for, you want to see yourself in the picture. And so I like that analogy for, thinking about the magazine. When someone opens up the magazine, whether it's an advertisement or in an article with the writers, I want all women of all ages, religions, races, it doesn't matter. I want all women to see themselves in the picture because the magazine is for everyone. It's not just for one zip code or another zip code or a certain socioeconomic status. It's for everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, no, great points there. And I certainly, hear that, some of the changes, and again, it was built and it was successful as it was, but you're building upon that. And a lot of the graphics, the way it looks, an appealing way, the cover shots. I mean, I know you have some wonderful partners that are helping you. So speaking of them, let me ask about the role that you serve in. I mean, I know you own it, but tell our audience a little bit more about what you do in regard to the magazine that comes out, and some of your partners that really help put this all together.
Oh, great question. So when I bought the magazine, I said, I just want things to be appealing. So in consulting with many people, and also with a lot of interns, we have tons of interns from FSU. We've had a couple from Florida A&M as well. So to have different age groups even weigh in on what the optics look like, what is attractive. I have a new graphic designer. We had a great graphic designer before, but we have a new graphic designer because sometimes you have to just have a new set of eyes to see things differently so that you're not doing things in a cookie cutter way, which is great. If something works, follow that cookie cutter. But I just wanted to say, what is the new look of the magazine? So we have a phenomenal graphic designer. Our creative director is Olivia Hayward, and she's out of North Carolina, former Tallahassee resident. And so she's been instrumental in helping bring this vision to fruition. I've been working with making sure that the photos look really great. So been working largely for our guest editor. We've been working with Jennifer Powell and Lisa, Image by Lisa for makeup. And for predominantly most of the covers, we work with Kira Derryberry for the covers. And so that's really helped with the layout, just having a new set of eyes. We have people on our leadership team that also weigh in and look at everything and give ideas. We have Marsha Warfel, the past president of 25 Women You Need to Know, and Paula DeBose Johnson. She weighs in on our leadership articles and things like that. We've partnered with Dana Brooks to contribute articles on legal issues, that women would be interested in. We partner with other professionals and contributors. So we have experts who are weighing in. For example, recently for mental health, we invited Dr. Gwendolyn Singleton to write some articles on mental health and mental health first aid, and also the therapist, Jane Marks, former First Lady. So we're always reaching out to experts. We partnered and collaborated with people like Red Eye Coffee, Barbie Morrow, are currently on the cover, but we partnered with her on some ideas. And so we're always talking and consulting behind the scenes with many women on many different ideas. But you haven't seen everything because I have at least 10 years worth of ideas, and we only have 6 issues a year. So it's tough to get them all in there because we're trying to take it to the next level. So the whole concept is next level thinking, women's empowerment. And we believe that empowered women empower women. And so I'm trying to make sure that our tribe of women is very diverse, and we have the community represented. And that's why we have the new concept of it's kind of like the celebrity guest editor. So every issue has a different guest editor, so that we actually highlight more than just the cover woman. We highlight many women, but we really give a special highlight to the guest editor because they bring a different perspective.
All right. Well, I applaud your efforts there. And again, I've noticed, like many, the transformation, improvements, and all of those things as well. And storytelling, super powerful. And I know the story that Barbie recently, shared is very personal and very strong. But it's a great venue for you to be able to share that, right? So thank you. And we wish you, let's see, you said 15 years. So hopefully we'll get to that 20-year celebration, right? For the magazine to keep it going. But that's just one of the business lanes. So that keeps you busy, but now I want to kind of add another hustle or two, right? So let's start with Courageous Conversations, because you've had that business for longer than you've had the magazine. So share with our audience, when you went back and got a PhD, You're a licensed psychotherapist. So give us a little bit about your time and energy that you spend with that business, with your own business.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many. Wow, you're making me really see how many things I'm doing here. I need to slow down, I think. So Courageous Conversations is my private practice. And again, as a psychotherapist, a licensed mental health counselor, I do counseling face-to-face in the office. I do couples counseling. I'm trained as a Gottman level 3 therapist. So I do individual counseling, couples, and I do that typically a couple evenings a week and some Saturdays. But under that umbrella of Courageous Conversations, I also do some consulting every now and then on tough topics like diversity, equity, and inclusion, or dealing with difficult people, or, wellness. I'm very interested in self-care, but people typically have to have some courageous conversations with themselves, on a personal level, and others, to be able to make a change in their life. And so Courageous Conversations came out of my passion for helping people. And so that is the consulting, coaching, psychotherapy, counseling lane that I do.
Okay. And when did you start that? When did you open that business, your private practice?
I launched that actually in 2015, although I was doing a lot of speaking and stuff before that. In 2015, I actually realized I kept using that terminology when I talked to people. And I was telling them you have to have courageous conversations. And I use my brother's favorite quote. He says that with risk and courage, you can redefine the possibilities in your life. And I just love the idea of thinking about courage. So 2015, the early 2015 is when I launched that business.
Okay. And I know one thing in particular about, your speaking engagements, DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I know you've probably recently traveled a few times, to do some speaking engagements around that. So where we are in the world today, right? Whatever your opinion is or what facts are out there, share with our audience just the most prominent parts of DEI that you're engaged in and that businesses are looking for the most or utilizing the most when it comes to a leadership standpoint, employee relations standpoint, client engagement, whatever you want to add. But so give us a little more on that.
Yeah, well, yes, that is a huge issue right now. And I guess, it has been for a long time, but the way that the world, especially America, is embracing and recognizing the importance of being multiculturally competent. A lot of people hear that and they think, oh, diversity, equity, inclusion, you're just talking about race. Is that just black and white? No, it's so much more. And so what I do is I help small and medium-sized businesses actually kind of shore up those multicultural skills. So I believe that companies can leverage multiculturally competent leadership and increase that triple bottom line. They can use, leverage that to increase, profit, people, like you say, employer relations, customer service, because unfortunately, everyone has some type of implicit bias, growing up, or your culture, or the part of the world you're from, or the United States. And so some people will say, well, it's not needed. People are not outwardly racist. And it's not about being racist. It's about multicultural competence and understanding and meeting people where they are, and having, you think about a doctor having, they say, that bedside manner. But, what about just people? Like you said, when you do your training, you talk about relationships. How do you cultivate those relationships? And so there's some things that are invisible to many people and they're not even aware of. So what I do is I try to increase 3 buckets: awareness, knowledge, and skills around what multiculturally competent leadership looks like. Because if that comes from the top and people are strategic and the multicultural competencies are intentional and a part of their business plan, it helps on all facets with the ROI in every way, in every aspect of her business. And so that's a kind of in a nutshell. And there's a lot more you can imagine. I have 45 hours minimum of content on DEI. And so I've been doing a lot of DEI training in the last several years, especially where America is right now. And people are, I think, recognizing that it is important. And I think most companies, especially here in Tallahassee, people are really embracing it and having those courageous conversations.
Good. Thank you for elaborating on that. I'm sure that's helpful to a lot of folks. And you hinted when you said teaching. So now there's an additional lane of work, right? So you've got the magazine, you got private practice, courageous conversations, doing DEI and counseling and other things. But then you're also teaching at universities at the same time. So tell everybody a little bit about your commitment there, week in, week out.
Okay, well, the commitment, wow, this does seem like a lot. So I teach my main job, believe it or not, is Florida Agricultural and University, Florida A&M. I know some people say FAMU, they say Florida A&M, or they say the whole thing, which is a mouthful, right? But I teach, an award-winning, famous HBCU, Florida A&M, and they have one of the best kept secrets. They have a clinical mental health counseling and school counseling program. So I am an associate professor, and I teach in the clinical courses for that, like clinical mental health counseling internship, multicultural counseling, theories of counseling. I teach psychopathology, abnormal psych. So those are the courses that I teach at Florida A&M, and I teach at Florida State University in their College of Education. I'm teaching techniques of counseling for the clinical mental health counselors there. So teaching is a big part of what I do. And that's why I think it goes hand in hand with my training, because I'm teaching in the classroom, and some of those micro skills that I teach in the classroom, I repackage those to teach business and industry.
Okay. So the young people today are benefiting greatly by having your experience in the private sector, also in the classroom, right? To a degree. I mean,
I hope that they are. Yeah, I hope that they're learning something out there. We turn out, at Florida A&M and FSU, they turn out some great students. So I'm just honored to be able to teach at two of the, great universities or colleges here in Tallahassee. I'm very fortunate, to be a part of both.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're Rattler, a Seminole, a Knight, University of Central Florida.
That's right.
What's left? Stetson?
I know.
And,
two of our 5 children graduated from Florida State University.
Okay.
And, the kids, Otavia graduated from Florida State, and Brianna. And so we felt, kind of connected to Tallahassee for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. So I think from a career standpoint, business standpoint, I think those are most of the lanes that you're working in, teaching, private practice, in the magazine. And I know, being a little familiar with your scheduling, I know that's a hard schedule to keep, but you're managing, and we're going to get to how you manage that in a little while, right? When you share your best practices for us. But I want to shift to another lane that I know you spend a lot of time in. Okay. Let's talk about your fitness lane, right? Your commitment there, whether it be, the gym or riding a bike or playing tennis or playing golf. I mean, so your active lifestyle, tell us about your commitment there in that lane as well.
Well, yes. Being active, as an athlete, I mean, you're a great example of that. And I'm not where you're at, but, and I know you're not supposed to compare yourself to anybody. I don't do marathons. I believe in, for that mind, body, spirit balance, to really do the physical stuff. And so, as you kind of already mentioned, I play golf. I do personal training. And thank you, introducing me to Fit and Functional. So I do, training 2 to 3 days a week. I do personal training early in the morning. I walk. I try to walk, an average of, 5 miles. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's lower. Some days I can only get in 3 miles. But to try to do that, I guess during COVID, I really picked up the walking and riding my bike. And so I started walking at least 5 times a week and riding my bike. I try to do something every single day. I've now taken up tennis. And so I go over to, what is the park on Meridian? Forest Meadows, and I play tennis over there with ladies, take lessons in a group, plus go on the weekend to play. And I can't think of what else. What else did you say I did? Ride my bike. Oh, and I roller skate. And so I think there's something, as you know, there's something about that physical activity that even if you don't think you're stressed out, after getting, out there and walking or running or riding the bike or playing tennis, I feel so much better. And that, if I didn't do that, I don't know how, because do you really balance it all? It's not that everything can be on a schedule, but you get it in there whenever you jump in with the exercise, and I just get it in there whenever I can. Just it's not always the same time. Typically, training with, working with the trainer is, but the other things, if I see the weather, and I guess, I don't know if it's like this for runners, I look at the weather every day and I say, oh, the weather's great. I need to get my workout in before this time or after this, after it's raining. And so that really helps with mental health, with everything, with sleeping well, balancing it all. And again, I don't know if anyone truly balances, like you say, you have to actually run your life. You can't let your life run you. So I'm very intentional in incorporating this physical.
Don't give away your tips yet. Oh, no, no, everything you're saying. So yeah, I mean, there's the physical health, right? Then there's the mental health, and regardless of what activity you're doing, I create a lot. I solve problems a lot while I'm running or riding or walking, whatever it is I'm doing. But the physical exertion, it does your body good. It does your mind good. I mean, that's scientifically proven, So physical activity of 30, 60 minutes a day, every other day, making it a routine. But I agree. I mean, I use integration versus balance because I've never had a balance in my life of work and life and different things. It's always trying to integrate all of them. So there's tricks of the trade that we have all learned, and I can't wait to listen to yours. But I'm just proud, of what you've accomplished, because just in the short time I've seen you've gotten into new things from an active level. So share with the audience about Fierce and Flexy. Is that what it's called, right?
Yes. So Fierce and Flexy. So I wanted to incorporate Fierce and Flexy. It's a part of the Tallahassee Woman Magazine and the Women Who Mean Business community, which years ago, Tallahassee Woman Magazine used to print a second magazine called Women Who Mean Business. And so that community consists of women who are fierce. And what I mean by fierce are women who are go-getters, women who are successful, professional. They're fierce because, they're going after what they want, their education, they're running their businesses. So they're fierce women, and they are flexing their minds, right? They're flexing that intellectual muscle, and they're flexing that business muscle. So they're already fierce and flexing women. So I thought, why don't, I can incorporate fitness in that fierce and flexy concept with action, with physical activity. So the magazine team decided to say, hey, let's do some fierce and flexy activities and collaborate with people in the community and just take this to another level. And so I think that all happened actually during COVID because people wanted more. So I was doing mental health and mindfulness Mondays, fierce and flexy activities. So we've been partnering with people to do just that, to get women out there, because there's some women that say, I want to get out there to do something, but I don't have a friend to do it with, or I don't know how to do that. I've had people text me and say, Michelle, I would love to play golf with you, but I don't know how to play golf. And so I'm actually reaching out to some golf courses because I would like to have a Tallahassee Woman Magazine and Women Who Mean Business, Fierce and Flexy golf clinic. And so maybe you can help me with that as well. But I have reached out to a few people. I'm waiting to hear back to see how we can incorporate some training, because women want to get out there and they want to get this physical activity, like you're saying, and integrate it into their lives. Integration is so important for all the reasons that you mentioned and more.
Yeah, no, I agree. It reminds me of what the FSU do a couple times to boosters, a women's clinic, right? Where it was all day dedicated to women in the community going to FSU who support the program and going through the locker room and doing some training, just to show, because a lot of them had interest, but what's the entry point? So if you're helping bring more women into golf or more women into personal fitness, that's an awesome thing. And roller skating, because I know y'all have done that too at the local.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And a matter of fact, I'm working again with Fit and Functional to do some women's Fierce and Flexi events. And we're looking at the third Wednesday of each month. And it will be at either the Kerry Forest Parkway or the Midtown location. So I'm partnering with people I've partnered with and had, of course, roller skating. And now we're at, Forest Meadows doing tennis. So if people are interested, they just, some people have reached out to me, but we would like to really make this ongoing part of our community.
Awesome. Okay, so thanks for the transition, because you mentioned community. That's where I'm going next. But thank you again for sharing so much about your fitness and your active lifestyle, more integrating. But let's transition to the community involvement side of things, because I know, again, the community is important to you. The magazine has supported the community through events previously. You do it personally by serving on boards. I'm sure there are some charitable or philanthropic, causes that you care more about in this community. So tell us a little more where you are. Where's your heart? Where's your time and energy and resources when it comes to the community?
Wow, community, that's a big one, because, giving back to the community is so important, because we're all in it together. And I know that's trite, everyone says that, but it's true. We are all in this together. So giving back is so important to me. And that's why I serve on the United Way of the Big Bend, board, and also Synovus Bank, because there's so many great things that they care about. And I'm honored that I was invited to be a part of both of those boards that do so much. So Tallahassee Woman Magazine helps with sponsorships, with, in-kind sponsorships and sponsorships for many of these events. And I actually volunteer to do things in the community and speaking. I volunteer with the Oasis Center as well and speaking, for some of their events. And so just giving back is important. I believe that once you give, just keep giving to the community any way, shape, or form that you can, you actually benefit. It comes back to the community 1,000-fold. It really does. There's that ripple effect of all of us coming together, and you might not see it overnight. And so I just try to put in, a little bit here and there and do my 2 cents. And some people are saying, well, Michelle, you do so much. I don't know how you do it. You're giving back, but that's what Tallahassee does. People show up. And that's what I love about this community more than any other community that I've ever lived in. I love that community relationship factor. Whatever that factor is, that community factor, that C factor, I don't know what you call it, but I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of Tallahassee becoming known, liked, and trusted, I think people watch and they see who you are and what you do to benefit others, right? I certainly do. It's one thing to say it when you're talking about being trite, but there are people that back it up. And that's the important piece, is put your money where your mouth is, or sweat equity, whatever it is, right? Actually being involved and participating within the community. But let me drill down, because I know you're on the board of United Way, and they support certain areas in the community, and not as in zip codes, but in certain areas like the Alice population, poverty, and different things. So for you personally, as Michelle Mitcham, Dr. Michelle Mitcham, what are those charitable causes that you have a great interest in, whether because of where you came from and what you've gone through and what you've learned, or what you do, education being one, right? What are those that really attract you to get involved?
I think that one of the things that attracts me is the programs that are out there for not only women, but people who are challenged with their finances, so the lower socioeconomic status group, because I'm just so impressed, when people give back so that people can have equitable opportunities with education. But just with food alone, there's people, there are many people that don't have choices on what they eat, or they don't have enough food. There's that food insecurity piece that has affected Tallahassee, especially certain zip codes. So food insecurity, nobody should have to go to bed hungry. You think this is America, this is Tallahassee, this is the capital. Also career, not giving someone something and giving them kind of a hand up, not giving them a hand out, but saying, hey, I can help you with some resources, some career resources, some job opportunities, training. So those are the things that really motivate me, are to help those and help people, to help themselves by giving back in that way. Because some people just need a little bit of help. It's not that they want you to give them anything. They really do want the training and some resources. So I'm all in and, committed to helping those, to get to the next level so they can truly self-actualize. Because if you're worrying about where your next meal is coming from, there are people who are, 2 or 3 paychecks away from being homeless. And that's not to minimize homelessness, but there are people who are very close. And then like there's the Alice population, others who, are just really fragile. And so I'm committed to helping those who want to help themselves and just need a little bit of help or, guidance.
Yeah. So speaking of the community and helping, so if I remember correctly, the foundation was started by TWM, the magazine, right? But I believe it was right at the beginning of COVID and everything else. But share briefly, the reason you wanted to start that foundation tied to the magazine.
Well, because the magazine is already focused on empowering women and uplifting women, what I realized is, for example, there's some women who, for example, couldn't afford to pay the fee for the professional development, because typically we have different events and we have professional development lunch and learns. And during COVID, we had to cancel those. And since we have had one thing, online, but there are women who, for example, said, well, I would love to come, but I can't afford it. So I actually had people reach out to me to say, I would like to pay for a few people's tickets and things like that. And I just thought about that professional development need and the women who want to do better and they want some professional development, but they can't afford it. And so the Tallahassee Woman Magazine Foundation is focused on women's empowerment, professional development, and mental health, to make sure that there's some resources out there, to help offset some of the costs or to put on some events to actually meet that need.
Awesome. That's great. And, again, once we get through, if and when we get through COVID to some degree, right, we hopefully we'll see more and more and get back to the red gale and other things that the foundation is doing. I'm looking forward to that. Okay. So needless to say, time, energy, resources are committed to the lane of community service. So thank you for sharing all of that. So I want one more lane that I know is on my list to talk to you about, because you spend a lot of time and energy and care is the family lane. All right. So I've been close enough to you now for several years to learn so much more about your family, how wonderful they are. But share with us a little about Kerry and the kids, and just how dedicated you are to that lane.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for asking me that. Yes. So I'm really, fortunate to have a wonderful husband, Kerry. To everybody else, to others, he's Dr. Kerry McCord. And, we have 5 beautiful children, and, they're all busy. Everybody's grown. And so spending time with family is so important. So I believe it's very important, as they say, to work hard and play hard. When I talk about play, I mean, again, connection, that connection, and cultivating and continuing to spend time and invest in family. And so we regularly try to spend time with our kids as much as possible, although we all live in different places. As you know, Brianna, who's now traveling all over the world, as she's our new supermodel. She's a professional model who started at Florida State, and now she's in New York and has been all over the world. And Tavia is a newly minted doctor, like Kerry. She's following in his footsteps. And so we have 2 holistic doctors, or chiropractors. And so they're really, really, really busy. Our family's busy. We have a daughter that's in Tampa, a son that's in Orlando, a son that's in Fort Walton Beach. And so we try to get together on the holiday. So actually we're having family Thanksgiving in Tallahassee this year. So people are coming from all over, including my nieces and my nephew, who are coming from Atlanta and Oklahoma. And so we're going to have tons of family for the holidays, but we also go see them. But it's nice that we're hosting Thanksgiving. And so we do believe in investing that time and love and effort into family. So I think that we're all going to play tennis and go walking and ride bikes. We have all kinds of ideas. And so the whole family is going to be really active. I think we're also going to do a golf day when they're here for the holidays.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Imagine
Imagine.
that. Yeah, because I know you're a good golfer, but then there's Kerry. He's on a different golfing, plane from what I understand. But speaking of Dr. McCord, Kerry McCord, so the 2 of you spending quality time. Y'all love to travel too, right?
Yes, we do. And so anytime we can get away, even if it's for a weekend or a 4-day, weekend here and there, because you could take your computers with you, and work these days. And so we love traveling. And so we love going to Cabo, and we've traveled to Belgium, and we've traveled to Italy. We love the Amalfi Coast, and we also love Fiji. And so we love Turtle Island. That's where the Blue Lagoon was filmed. And so I encourage everybody to go to Turtle Island, Fiji, if you get a chance.
Okay. I remember that movie. I remember, I keep reminding you, Michelle, as a friend, if you needed a concierge to travel with you and Kerry, just, to help you. I mean, I can do that, right? I mean, it's another way I can be a resource for my friends and business clients. So
I'm going to remember that, Mickey.
yeah.
Yeah. But traveling and spending time. So Kerry and I both golf. We both love to walk. And I didn't get him into tennis yet, but we do travel. And so anyway, there's just spending time together like that is so important, to invest in your relationship and to keep the lines of communication open. And it's important to laugh. We laugh a lot. Kerry's pretty funny. He's like a family comedian.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while to understand his jokes, but anyway, it's pretty funny.
Well, it helps to understand them sometimes, to laugh at them or not.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, no, I like Kerry. He's a very easily likable person. So, and I mean that with all sincerity. Nice guy.
Oh yeah,
So
Kerry won the FSU summer match play in 2020.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, I know he's a ringer on the golf course. He's a scratch golfer almost. So, all right, so that's the family lane hobbies kind of thing. We've talked about fitness, we've talked about community, we've talked about your multiple business lanes, right? So now I've got to get to the primary question of the day, which is, in order for you to integrate all of those things to some successful degree, right? We want to give you the opportunity, Dr. Mitcham, to share, your best practices, those things that help you do it, right? To run more of life than life running you. For our audience, what couple tips or takeaways can they try to help them better integrate those many lanes? Knowing, of course, there's no perfect formula, right? But you try this, you try that, you do different things, because again, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and it's not working, right? You got to try something new. So what are your secrets to success from a behavioral standpoint of integrating work and life?
Wow, that's really great. Well, one of the things I do to integrate, I try to have a time that I cut things off. For example, I, typically stop eating at 7 o'clock. I typically try to have some dedicated time, a chunk of time for the self-care.
Hmm.
And so, just trying to, I know anyone can schedule, but how do you do that? Do you have timers? Do you do it on your phone? Do you have to physically change the location where you are? There's sometimes that I have choices of what offices I can work from. Sometimes on purpose, I work from my home office
Right.
and I set timers. Sometimes I work from the Tallahassee Woman Magazine office. There's other times, of course, that I'm doing advisement and I'm with students and I'm going to be teaching in a few hours. So I have some set hours, office hours that I have at the university, whether they're face to face or Zoom. A lot of students, even if I'm sitting in my office at work, they are asking for a Zoom meeting, I guess, because of COVID or whatever. So the scheduling part and being very proactive about my schedule as much as I can, because there are so many things planned out sometimes for a year. I try to plan out my professional life for like conferences and things like that, 6 months to 12 months in advance.
Okay.
And that might seem like a lot, but I know where the conferences are and what CEUs and things I need for work. So I try to plan out conferences in advance. My husband also has professional conferences he has to attend, and we typically attend each other's conferences so that we can have that time together as a couple and friends so that we can, actually have a little bit of downtime after the conference to be together. So really being proactive and setting schedules and knowing what lane to be in. Like I might have the idea and the concept, and my husband will be the one maybe to execute it. He likes to go online and compare the prices and things like that. So he's really good at the scheduling once we lay out what the plan is.
Okay.
And so the scheduling part is huge, and blocking out time to do something, even to have that me time, to block it out, to know I'm going to do something for myself. I don't know what it's going to be. Also scheduling massages. It's important, as I know you have to get massages because you're a professional runner and biker. Um, Getting massages is really important. But it takes time to get on the books to get those things done for self-care. And so the planning aspect, because I realized that some people will say, well, I'll do that one day. What happens when you say, I'll do that one day, is that oftentimes it doesn't happen. So it just happens randomly. If it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. So I realized that you have to have, as you know, set a goal and set a date, and then try to work towards it incrementally if possible. So you can, look at your progress. Some of the things I do for project management, I try to use technology, set again timers. There's some calendar programs. I forgot the name of it. Mixmax. There's some different things that you can use on your calendar, to set your time for things using Trello, Trello. Sometimes, well, I definitely use Trello for project management. Also, the Microsoft OneNote is good. And so I try to work smarter and not harder so that I have lots of things. If I know I have a report that's coming up and there's multiple parts and it's going to be due in 6 months, I pull different parts of that together in OneNote. So having technology is really important. Also, in balancing for the business, I utilize interns. There are a lot of interns that need credit for their classes. So the magazine, we have a lot of community partners and people that volunteer to write articles. And we also have interns primarily from FSU, but we have had interns from FAMU, and I like to have more interns from FAMU as well. So having interns, and I have people that train the interns and work with the interns so that you have assistants. Sometimes people don't know to ask for help, because you don't have to do everything. You can wear many hats, but you don't have to have all the hats on at the same time if you train the trainer. And so it's important to be able to delegate to get things done.
Oh, okay. Thank you. A lot there. Let me try to regurgitate a little bit of that, right? So you talk about scheduling, right? Including those start dates and stop dates, right? Boundaries, basically, of, hey, I'm not going to do this after this time. It's almost like, hey, after 8 p.m., turn off the cell phone, don't look at emails anymore, right? So maybe that's something that's simple, but also being proactive with your planning, right? So looking ahead. I agree with you. You mentioned the weather. Look, I do that a week ahead of time. And when I'm trying to figure out my swim and my run and my bike, I've got to look at the weather to know, when's the right time for me to go out. And then also my wife's calendar and the school calendar and the kids' baseball calendar and my work calendar. So I've got 5 or 6 calendars that I've got to look ahead. So I agree with you 100%. You got to be forward looking, proactive on your schedule. So great point there. The other thing you mentioned, goals, right? So, hey, I want to accomplish something by this date. Otherwise, as you said, I'll start it tomorrow, and I'll start it tomorrow, and I'll start it tomorrow. And next thing you know, it's 6 months and you haven't started it, right? But if you put the window of, hey, I'm going to have it done in 30 days, you'll start it sooner. And then lastly, using some resources, right? Ask for help. Use some resources around you that can help you accomplish these things in concert with technology, right? Work harder, or work smarter, not harder, I should say, but using technology to help yourself plan and organize where you're going to be or what you're going to do. All of that is wonderful advice for somebody trying to get better at running life versus life running them, trying to integrate the many lanes of work and life. So thank you for sharing all that, Dr. Mitcham.
Oh, you're welcome. The other thing I do want to say is also one of the things I teach people to do, and I do a training on doing vision boards. And so, and making a vision board, because it's not just for women, men can do it too. And so I don't call it a vision board. I call it a dream vision board. And it could be a mini one. It could be just some cardstock, but cutting out letters and cutting out pictures for goals, for, and goals based on your core values, not just like, well, I want to buy a new car. Like, what are your core values and what makes you you? And so doing a vision board, or even having a dream vision journal. I need to write a book about this, actually. The dream vision journal. Yes. Because
okay. You heard it here first, and I get 10% of the royalties. Thank you very much. Okay.
That's right. So what I want everyone to know is that, and remember, the mind attracts that which it dwells upon and acknowledges. So the mind attracts that which it dwells upon and acknowledges. And so it's one thing to think about it, but when you write it down, when you write it in your dream vision journal, and your journal could be a notebook, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be fancy. I don't want someone to say, well, I would write it in a journal, but I don't have one. Write it on a sheet of paper, write it on an envelope. I don't care. But when you write down your goals and then start thinking about it, your mind and your actions and your behaviors are attracted like a magnet to these goals. And when you do the vision board and start cutting out pictures and putting your title, I remember years ago, before I had my bachelor's degree and I started thinking about the future, I remember writing out on a sheet of paper, Dr. Michelle Mitcham, and I had all these credentials behind my name. I know it sounds really silly, I have a lot of credentials, but I am not a credential. I just want to put that out there. I have a lot of credentials, but I'm not a credential. I'm a human being and a very authentic one, but those credentials open doors for me for this field. All fields don't have to have this. My brother's an engineer. He went all the way to the top. He has an MBA, but he was at the top before he received his MBA. But anyway, in my field, I had to get all these credentials, to really do something, I think. So anyway, the dream vision board is so important. I think that if more people took time,
Yeah.
because when do we take time to stop and just, say, I'm going to stop and think about my life and just take a
Right.
few hours just to think about me. A lot of people don't take time to do that. But if
Yeah.
you can see yourself and write, like I'm sure there's some strategies you have, and I have heard some of the great strategies, because when you're running, you're swimming and whatever, hundreds of miles that you do, there's a lot going on in that brain. There's a lot of things that you're thinking about.
Yeah. Sure.
And you can see yourself at the finish line. You can see yourself
Right.
walking across that graduation stage, or you can see yourself as CEO, or you can see yourself, some people, whatever it is, getting a little bit stronger, being
Well,
able to lift more weight.
yeah, visualization is something I've always believed in. I officially I've never done a board, right? But
Mhm.
visualization is great. Muhammad Ali talked about the visualization when he would train. He would, during his training, he would say, "I'm going to knock this person out in the third round," and he would visualize it and train and get his mind, again, what the mind perceives, the body achieves, to where I think so many consecutive fights, like he did knock the person out in the round he said he was going to. So
Wow.
I'm a big believer in visualization. So that additional tip that you're offering of actually putting it on paper, right? So you can see it, pictures, writings, I think that's an added benefit. So thank you for adding that in as well.
Yeah, because just think there's some people that have never had a parent or a relative or a friend or a spouse to say these things to them that are positive. Some people don't have that natural cheerleader. Like I feel that I'm the president of my children and my husband's fan club. So I'm always being an encourager, like a cheerleader,
Right.
you can do this and whatever. And I know that you do that. You and your wife do that for your beautiful two boys. You do that for them. But every person, every human being doesn't have that. People can have a loving husband or a loving wife, but everyone's not always encouraging them to do everything and saying, I believe in you. You
Right.
can do this. I see you. One of the things my husband told me, he said, this is your decade. He said that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, this is your decade. When I told him, I said, hey, I think I want to buy the magazine. My husband said, you know what? Dear, I think the magazine will be an excellent thing for you to do. And I would like to help you achieve all of your dreams.
Yeah.
And so it's like everyone doesn't have that cheerleader. And it's okay if you don't have that cheerleader. That vision board can be a great tool for you to
Sure.
be your own cheerleader, to write it down,
Right.
because like nobody gets in your head, and I'm sure it tells you, Mickey, I see you as, a world marathon and, whatever, Ironman marathon runner. You somehow, you figured that out, because you have to see yourself. If you don't see yourself in a position or in a role or doing something in the community, if you can't see it, like you said, visualization, how are you going to achieve it? And
Yeah.
everyone's not going to speak that onto your life. Sometimes it has to really come from within. You have to also think about your faith. I'm a strong believer in God. I'm Catholic, and it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what race, what religion,
Right.
but you have to have some type of faith in something, I believe.
Yeah, no, again, thank you for adding those tidbits. And I mean, everything you're saying is true. And I think this is why Run Life Today exists. This podcast is because hopefully it'll provide some inspiration to others who don't have those extrinsic support systems, right? The encouragement, the cheerleading you're talking about. My hope has always been that people will listen to these podcasts. They'll be inspired by the people that we interview, and then they'll benefit themselves by trying some of the tips and best practices, or maybe help them visualize where they can be next. So
Oh,
uh, we'll
absolutely.
keep doing that with our next episode, whoever that might be. But this episode has been absolutely wonderful, and I'm glad to spend an additional hour with you. So thank you, Dr. Mitcham, especially again, now learning more about all the lanes and the commitments that you have. But so thank you. And I hope to see you very soon. And to our audience, Run.Life.Today.org. This episode will be available soon. Michelle, I'll see you.
I'll see you later. You don't go through life looking in the rearview mirror. You're going to crash. Keep moving forward.
That's right. All right. I'll see you.
Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.